My name is Alara Quinn. I'm 31 years old and I work as a heart and chest doctor in Chicago. One time something really messy happened. It was my mom's 53rd birthday party, and I was sitting at the table with my family. I accidentally spilled hot beef soup all over my face. It burned a little and dripped from my hair onto the white tablecloth. My brother Dante got really angry. He slammed his empty plate down and yelled, "You have 15 minutes to leave this family." Mom and Dad didn't say a word. They just kept looking at their food. My little sister Sienna clapped like it was a fun show, like she was watching a performance. I wiped my face, reached into my bag, pulled out a big thick folder and dropped it on the table. The sound made everyone stop talking. "Fine," I said. My voice was very cold. "In 15 minutes, everything you own disappears." I looked at them seriously. Later I started telling my story online. Comment where you're watching from and hit subscribe if your family ever turned on you. Stick around because it gets worse. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, in a hot and humid place called the Low Country. Our house was old and wooden and right next to the Ashley River. The house creaked a lot and the paint was peeling. The porch sagged because too many summer storms had hit it over the years. Dad, Gideon Quinn, worked long hours as a construction engineer. He would come home tired and dusty most nights. Mom, Maribel Quinn, taught 3rd grade at the local elementary school. She always smelled like chalk and cafeteria pizza. Then there was my brother, Dante Quinn. He was born when I was 4. From the start he became the center of attention. Mom and Dad gave him lots of things even when we didn't have much. He went to a private school, got new sneakers every season, and even a used dirt bike for his 10th birthday. Mom would smile when he got a B-, saying he was just finding his way. Dad would pat him on the back every time he hit a ball in Little League. 6 years after Dante, my little sister Sienna was born. She became the baby that everyone spoiled. By the time she started kindergarten, she got all the best things. She went to a fancy school across town, the kind with uniforms and Latin classes. Mom drove her to school every morning and packed her healthy lunches. I had to take the public bus with a peanut butter sandwich. When Sienna had dance recitals, the whole family got front row seats. When I won science fairs, I only got a small nod before Dad went back to watching TV. Money for Dante's hobbies flowed easily. Guitar lessons, summer camps, even a small job at Dad's office that was really more fun than work. When Dante turned 16, Dad bought him a shiny red pickup truck. When Sienna turned 18, she got a white car at her graduation party. I just watched from the sidelines, saving my money from hospital work to pay for my own school loans. Grandpa Edmund Quinn lived 20 minutes away in a small brick house. It was filled with old medicine books and pill bottles from when he used to make medicine. He had built a small company in the 1970s that helped local hospitals, then sold it for money. In his later years he slowed down but stayed very smart. Dad only visited Grandpa maybe twice a year, always saying he was too busy with work. Mom sent birthday cards but skipped the actual birthday. Dante never visited Grandpa at all, always too busy with friends. Sienna promised to visit but then made excuses like, "I have a headache," or, "I have to study." Grandpa never said he was sad, but I could see it in his eyes. I always made the effort to visit. Every month, even when I was really busy with work, I flew or drove 12 hours to see him. We would sit on his back porch drinking sweet tea while he told stories about the old days and the people he helped. He would quiz me on anatomy and medicine and he would smile proudly when I got the answers right. "You have fire, Alara," he would say quietly. "The others, they are just passing through." I didn't know then how much that would stick with me. One weekend when I was 25, Grandpa pulled me aside. His hands were shaking slightly. He gave me an old photo of his first lab team. "Keep pushing," he whispered. "Madison needs people who care about lives more than money." Dante skipped that visit for a beach trip. Sienna said she had a headache. Grandpa didn't mention them again. Holidays were always the same. At Thanksgiving, Dante carved the turkey while Sienna took selfies with the pies. Grandpa sat quietly picking at his food while Dad talked about work. Mom kept filling Dante's and Sienna's glasses first. I helped clear the dishes and caught Grandpa's glance. He mouthed a thank you when nobody was watching. Summers were more of the same. Dante and Sienna played by the river in new boats while Dad blasted music over the water. Grandpa invited me to go fishing, but Dante and Sienna ignored him. I went with Grandpa instead, casting lines in silence while he taught me patience and precision. The same skills that are important for surgery. By the time I was in my late 20s, the pattern was clear. Dante kept asking Dad for money for ideas, getting it without questions. Sienna's college fund got bigger, but I had to find scholarships and work hard for mine. Grandpa's health was getting worse. Heart problems were slowing him down. I helped take care of him from far away, calling his doctors between my hospital shifts. Dante sent boring get-well texts and Sienna just sent sympathy emojis. Meanwhile, I was working hard in Chicago as a heart surgeon. The operating room was like a battlefield. I repaired hearts with serious problems and I got very good at it. Patients called me a miracle and my colleagues called me relentless. One night, a 68-year-old CO collapsed at a fancy party. He was having a heart attack. His heart stopped working right. I had to work fast. I opened his chest, bypassed 3 blocked vessels and put in a temporary pump to keep him alive. After 12 hours he was breathing on his own. The news said I was a young surgeon who saved a tech boss. My picture was in the paper and reporters were outside the hospital. The CO sent a handwritten note thanking me. His company even gave equipment to my hospital. My name became well known, but I stayed focused on helping patients. Back home, Dante tried to get rich with a health app. He quit college and borrowed money from Dad and the bank. At first things looked good. He rented a condo, bought a Tesla and showed off his app. Sienna joined him in photos. But things went wrong fast. The app didn't work well. Competitors made better products. Money ran out. The staff quit. Lawsuits started. Dante lost the condo and car. He moved into a small studio apartment and had to sleep on friends' couches. Sienna's college tuition bounced. She dropped to part-time classes and worked at a restaurant to pay bills. Grandpa watched all this from home as his own health got worse. I kept helping him, making sure he got his medicine and doctors. Dante and Sienna barely tried. Grandpa needed people who cared, not just family by blood, and I was there. Even when I was super busy with patients and long hospital shifts, I made sure to call Grandpa every week. I asked about his medicine, his appointments, and how he felt. We talked about life, about hearts, and about how to stay calm even when things feel out of control. He smiled every time I called. He told me, family isn't always who shares your blood. It's who shows up. I remembered that sentence because it was true. Dante and Sienna didn't show up, but I did. The difference between me and my siblings wasn't that I didn't care about myself. It was that I cared about other people too. Grandpa always noticed that. He told me that in the world, the people who work hard and care about others are the ones who last. The ones who just want money or attention sometimes fall behind, no matter how much they think they are winning. I worked so hard in Chicago saving people's lives. Every time a patient's heart started beating again, I felt proud. I knew that every hour I spent studying every night in the hospital was worth it. I knew that someday all of my effort would show. And it did. People noticed. Other doctors respected me. Patients trusted me. The city knew my name. Dante's and Sienna's problems didn't stop them from asking for help though. Dante wanted new money for more big ideas. Sienna wanted tuition and clothes and everything else. But they didn't understand that life isn't about getting gifts. Life is about helping, learning, and showing up. Grandpa understood that, and so did I. When I returned home for visits, the house felt quiet. I would help Grandpa with simple things like grocery shopping or filling pillboxes. Sometimes we would sit on the back porch with sweet tea watching the river. The other kids were too busy with their own lives to be there. But I didn't mind. I knew the important things in life weren't things. They were love, care, and attention. Grandpa always smiled at me and said, "You're doing right, Alara." The others, well, they're learning the hard way. I realized that family isn't just about blood. It's about being there, showing up, and caring even when it's hard. I saw this every time I looked at Grandpa's eyes. They were proud, kind, and full of love, even when the rest of the family was distracted or selfish. Even after my big success in Chicago, I never stopped visiting Grandpa. I never stopped helping him. And I never stopped believing in what he taught me. That details matter, patience matters, and showing up for the people who need you most is the most important thing in the world. Through all of this, I learned that life isn't fair. Some people get more attention, more gifts, and more opportunities. But it's not about that. It's about what you do with what you have. Dante and Sienna got more gifts, but I got something better. The chance to save lives, help people, and be someone my grandpa could be proud of. Even when the soup spilled at Mom's birthday, even when my siblings got mad, even when everything seemed unfair, I remembered that I had done the hard work. I had shown up. I had cared. And in the end, that mattered more than any truck, car, or fancy school. I knew I was on the right path because the people who mattered most, the ones who needed me, knew I was there for them. And that's the story of my family, my struggles, and the lessons I learned. I stayed strong, worked hard, and loved deeply. I saved hearts, helped Grandpa, and learned that the real reward isn't attention or gifts. It's showing up when it counts. 3 years ago, Grandpa passed away quietly in his sleep. His monitors stopped working early in the morning and no one could wake him. I flew down right away to help with funeral arrangements while the rest of the family came later. The funeral was small. Only Grandpa's old work friends and a few neighbors came. Dad spoke a few words. Mom wiped her eyes with a tissue. Dante, my brother, kept looking at his phone and didn't seem very interested. Sienna, my sister, scrolled through her social media on her phone. It all felt quiet and sad but also strange because the family didn't seem very close that day. After the funeral, when most people had gone, a lawyer came up to me in the parking lot. He said that someone named Miss Quinn Lydia had sent me something private. He handed me a thick envelope filled with papers. The papers were official with fancy letterhead. It said the inheritance was only for me, Elara Quinn. There were no details in the envelope. It only said that I had to call to schedule a meeting. I put the envelope carefully in my pocket, my mind spinning. I didn't tell anyone about it. At the house, after the burial, our family gathered. Dante immediately looked at Grandpa's watch collection. He picked up the watches one by one, turning them over in his hands. Sienna ran her fingers across some old, delicate vases. Dad suggested maybe we should sell the house and share the money fairly. I stayed quiet. The envelope burned in my pocket. I didn't want anyone else to know about it. I made an excuse and left early, saying my flight was delayed. Back in Chicago, I opened the envelope alone. Inside were papers about Grandpa's money, company shares, and trusts. Some sections were sealed and could only be opened in person. The letter inside stressed that it was only for me. I locked the envelope in my safe and told no one. Weeks later, Dante called asking questions about Grandpa's papers. I made excuses saying I was too busy at work. Dante had many debts and always called for money. Sienna had moved schools closer to Dante's apartment so she could help with groceries. They leaned on Mom to pay for bills and on Dad for the car insurance. I didn't give them anything. My own loans were still unpaid. Keeping the secret felt heavy. Every time they called or texted, I felt worse. As time went by, news about Grandpa faded. My life returned to work. I was doing many surgeries and saving lives. One time I saved a senator's wife during an emergency. Everyone noticed my work and my name became well known. Offers came for new jobs, research grants, and private practice partnerships. I had many options. The inheritance papers were still sitting in my safe, waiting for me. Dante tried a business idea but it failed badly. Investors left and he went bankrupt. Sienna quit school to work as a barista to help cover living expenses. They shared a small one-bedroom apartment and the tension between them was thick. Finally, I scheduled the lawyer meeting quietly. I booked a flight under the excuse of attending a work conference. The inheritance remained a secret only for me. After one very long 22-hour hospital shift, my phone buzzed. It was Dante. I thought he was asking for money again. But he said, "Honey, Mom is turning 53 next weekend. Big party at the house. Everyone is coming. We are proud of you." Sienna joined the call. "Elara, you have to come. It wouldn't be the same without you." Their excitement sounded fake, but I was too tired to care. I agreed and said it would depend on my schedule. Sleep was restless that night. Work was busy the next morning with patients, tests, and emergency rounds. Between patients, I went to a watch store on Michigan Avenue. I wanted to buy a special gift for Mom. I picked a slim gold watch with a leather strap. The face was simple and classic. I asked the clerk to engrave it, "To Mom with love," on the back. Cost a lot, almost 2 months of my pay, but I wanted it to be perfect. Flights were expensive, so I decided to drive. 12 hours on the interstate through flat cornfields, rolling hills, and mountains. I packed an overnight bag, a cooler with snacks and energy drinks. I listened to podcasts about heart surgery and medical tips while driving. I left at dawn. Chicago disappeared behind me and the fields of Indiana stretched ahead. Kentucky hills rolled past. Radio stations changed from city music to country songs as I moved south. I stopped once for gas in Knoxville and stretched my legs under the bright lights of the gas station. I thought about Mom's reaction when she would see the watch. Halfway through the drive, my phone pinged. It was Tessa, my best nurse friend since the first day of internship. She texted, "Your siblings are asking about estate lawyers. Don't go. They are thinking about money." I stared at the message, thumbs hovering over the phone. Another message said, "Dante's been named CO again. Lender saved. Watch out." I pulled over at a rest stop. Tessa had been with me during long hospital days and difficult surgeries. She said, "Trust your gut. Be careful." I nodded and started driving again. The sun set as I entered South Carolina. The familiar exits made old memories surface, but I pushed them down. I focused on Mom's party and the drive back afterward. The house lights glowed in the distance. Many cars were parked outside. I grabbed the watch in my overnight bag and walked toward the door. The door opened before I could knock. Dante hugged me too tightly. Sienna ran around taking selfies and posting on social media. Mom came out wearing an apron. She gasped when she saw the watch. "It's beautiful," she said. She carefully put it on her wrist. It sparkled in the light. Dad nodded from the couch with a beer in his hand. Guests mingled in the yard. Cousins, old friends, neighbors, and a few people from Dante's failed business were there. The smell of barbecue filled the air. Smoke rose from the grill, mixing with lemonade and sweet tea smells. I went inside and got some food. A neighbor came up and asked about my work. I answered politely. Dante waved me over to his group. "Everyone, this is my sister, the heart doctor." People clapped and nodded. Dante started talking about new projects, investments, and technology in his business. He used big words about AI, cloud systems, and debt restructuring. Sienna shared her plan to study in Paris for fashion marketing. People cheered and clapped for her. Then everyone asked about me. An aunt teased, "Still single, Alara? With your salary you could buy a mansion." Laughter filled the yard. Dante smiled. Sienna joked, "Alara's living like a med student. Pizza boxes and takeout." I forced a small smile and ate slowly, pretending I wasn't worried. Dad called everyone for a toast. Glasses went up. Sweet tea for some, beer for others. Mom stood in the middle, smiling and glowing. Dante gave a loud, confident speech about Mom. Sienna said something sweet too. I stayed quiet, finishing my plate. Later, Dante pulled Sienna aside near the hedge. He whispered something about keeping Mom from interfering. Sienna nodded, her eyes darting toward me. I felt a strange mixture of relief, worry, and curiosity. The house was full of laughter, but I knew something had changed. My secret inheritance, the long drive, the gold watch, and everything that had happened was still mine alone. And I would keep it that way no matter what. Music played from a small Bluetooth speaker. The kind that could fill a patio with sound. Couples moved carefully on the patio bricks, smiling and laughing as they danced. I quietly slipped to the edge of a table, holding my teacup, and refilled it. Another family member walked over to me. "Your siblings are doing really well," they said. "Dante has a big comeback. Sienna is off on her own adventure. You must be so proud." They nodded at me with a smile that didn't feel quite real. I only nodded back. I watched Dante for a while. He was shaking hands with a man who looked very official, probably a banker, talking loudly about money and something called equity rounds. Sienna, on the other side, was showing her phone to a group of girls. On the screen were pictures of Europe. She laughed and pointed at different places she wanted to visit. Their excitement was real, but I felt careful. I stayed quiet, observing everything. The fire pit in the middle of the patio crackled and popped. The smell of burning wood and marshmallows filled the air. People handed around sticks with marshmallows roasting over the fire. Stories of our childhood floated around the group, most of them about Dante and Sienna. I didn't share much, just watched. The way the family acted felt the same as always. Mom came to me later. She looked down at my watch and smiled. "Thank you again," she said softly, hugging me tightly. Dad grunted in quiet approval nearby. Dante came and pulled Mom away to take some pictures. Sienna went along, holding his arm. Guests started leaving as the stars appeared in the sky. The cleanup began. Chairs were stacked, trash bags collected. I helped fold tables. My muscles ached from driving earlier. Dante patted my back. "Great having you here, sis," he said. Sienna hugged me quickly. "Stay longer next time," she whispered. Even though their smiles were warm, I could see they were only surface level. Their eyes were calculating, thinking. Dante suddenly stood up, lifting a huge pot of soup. Sienna was laughing next to him. Everyone else quieted, sensing something unusual was about to happen. He cleared his throat and spoke in a loud, dramatic voice. "Before dessert, I have a quick announcement," he said. "Grandpa left money for the whole family, shares in the company and a trust fund. But Alara gets nothing." The room went completely silent. Forks paused midair. Mom's smile froze. Dad put down his beer. I stared at Dante. "That's not right," I said. "He never said it was for everyone." Dante's face turned bright red. "You calling me a liar?" he shouted. Then in one sudden motion he tilted the pot. Hot beef soup poured over my head. The broth burned my scalp and slid down my neck onto my dress. Gasps filled the room. Sienna covered her mouth, eyes wide, pretending to be shocked. Dante slammed the empty pot down. "You have 15 minutes to leave this family," he yelled. Sienna stepped forward, voice sweet but tense. "Just accept it, sis. You get nothing." I wiped the broth from my lashes, reached into my bag and pulled out a thick folder. I slammed it on the table. Plates rattled from the impact. "Fine," I said. 15 minutes from now. Everything you think you have vanishes." I opened the folder and flipped to a notarized copy of Grandpa's will. I read it aloud. "I, Edmund Quinn, leave my pharmaceutical company shares, valued at $3.5 million, and my trust fund of $1.8 million solely to my granddaughter, Alara Quinn. She alone continues my mission in cardiac medicine through her surgical practice. Those who showed indifference during my lifetime are explicitly excluded." Mom gasped and held her hand to her chest. Dad stared in shock. Dante's mouth opened and closed, unable to speak. "See the signatures, witnesses, and notary seal?" I said. "No provision for the cold-hearted." "That's you." A cousin leaned in to check the pages. "It's real," they whispered. People started pulling out phones, taking pictures. Murmurs spread across the room. Dante lunged for the folder, but I pulled back. "Touch it and it counts as tampering," I warned. He froze, veins popping on his neck. Sienna tugged at his sleeve. "Do something," she hissed. Dad finally spoke, voice weak. "Grandpa never mentioned anything because you only visited twice in 5 years. Cards don't count as presents." Mom looked away. I felt the weight of my watch on my wrist. Guests shifted, uncomfortable. An aunt muttered, "That explains the favoritism." Another nodded. Alara had always been there. Dante's fists were clenched tightly. "This can't stand," he yelled. "Lawyers will contest it and trigger the no contest clause." I calmly tapped the folder. "Any challenge voids your claim forever, even if you thought you had one." Sienna's eyes darted to the exits. "But we need you to assume," I said. Assumptions cost. The soup had cooled on my skin, but the room was tense. Phones kept recording. A neighbor live-streamed it to a group chat. Comments scrolled. "He got all of it." Mom reached out to me. I shook my head. "No. Public declaration deserves public correction," I said. Dad rubbed his temples. Dante kicked a chair leg. Sienna scrolled frantically, probably looking for some loophole. Guests huddled in small clusters, debating the authenticity of the will. I pointed to the date, signed 6 months before Grandpa passed, after the last skipped birthday. Dante roared. "You hit this private designation." I shrugged. "Lawyer's orders. You announced first." Silence thickened. Soup dripped from my hair onto the tablecloth. No one moved to help. A guest whispered quietly, "Congrats, Alara." "Deserved." Sparse claps followed. Dante's glare could melt steel. Sienna whispered urgently in his ear. He shook her off. I reached into my inner pocket and pulled 3 stapled packets, spreading them on the table like playing cards. Packet 1. IRS Form 4564, official seal addressed to Dante M. Quinn. It listed $680,000 deducted for marketing with 0 invoices, $420,000 for equipment never delivered, and assets not delivered. Civil fraud penalty 75% and criminal referral pending. I explained calmly, "Your bankruptcy lawyer forwarded this. It's a public record." Dante tore it open. "They can't prove they already did." Packet 2. A single-page trust clause highlighted. If any beneficiary contests this trust, they forfeit all rights and must pay opposing legal fees. Notary seal dated 3 months after the will. Grandpa added this after Dante's last skipped visit. Sienna's lips trembled. If we sue, we get zero and pay your costs. Packet 3, 38-page debt assignment. $1,600,000 transferred from First Coastal Bank to me. My signature notarized. Page 7 included a foreclosure timeline. My action secured Grandpa's legacy. Dante's scream shattered the room. He hurled the contract pages. They fluttered like confetti. Sienna sank to her knees. Mom whimpered. "This is cruel," she whispered. Guests whispered among themselves. "She bought his bankruptcy," someone said. Dante bolted toward me. I stepped behind the grill. Police appeared at the gate, 2 uniforms. One sergeant. "Welfare check called by neighbor." I nodded. "All evidence here," I said. Dante jabbed a finger at me. "She attacked me." The sergeant glanced at my soup-stained hair and cleaned Dante. "No marks. Civil issue." Sienna clutched the trust copy. "We'll be homeless Friday," I confirmed. Dad guided Mom inside. Guests vanished. Dante kicked the table leg, cracking the wood. Cuffs flashed. "Last warning." He froze. Sienna followed the officer, voice shaking. 4 months later, a foreclosure notice was taped to Dante's door. Red stamp glaring under the porch light. Auction followed. Condo sold for pennies. Chapter 7 filed. Debts discharged except IRS lien. Dante rented a studio above a laundromat. Walls thin, washer vibrations constant. Sienna quit college mid-semester. Worked full shifts at a downtown coffee shop. Orders for tourists, small tips. Dreams of Europe faded to inventory counts. A handwritten letter arrived from Mom and Dad, envelope scented with old perfume. Pages full of apologies. I read it once by the fireplace and fed it to the flames. No reply sent. The pharmaceutical shares transferred seamlessly. $3.5 million in blue-chip stock. Dividends came every 3 months. Board seat offered, I accepted remotely. Profits funded cardiac research. Trust $1.8 million liquidated. I started the Edmund Quinn Scholarship Fund. Full rides for low-income South Carolina pre-med students. First recipients, 2 from Charleston Public Schools. Essays echoed Grandpa's passion for helping others. Blocked every number Dante tried. Changed locks. Deleted contacts, photos, group chats. Clean slate. Colleagues noticed. Fewer family mentions. Sharper focus. Tessa toasted the fund launch. Legacy secured. Dante spotted once at a gas station, unkempt, pumping cheap gas. He looked away first. Sienna unknowingly served me at the airport kiosk. Paid cash, left no tip, boarded quietly. Parents' holiday card returned unopened. True family isn't blood. True family is respect earned and returned.